Welcome to my Lupus Living Room. My name is Suzanne Tierney. I'm the CEO and president here of the Lupus Foundation of America's Great Ohio Chapter. And I have two guests with me today. Adrian Fernandez, Adrian Fernandez, who is my wingman here at the office and is very knowledgeable about a lot of things we do. And she herself is a lupus patient. Okay. And we have Brittney Bailey. Brittney, my goodness, I don't know if we have enough time to talk all about Brittney, what I know, but I will share with you that she is a lupus patient with multiple other health concerns. And Brittney has been with us since she's been a very young girl. And she's worked on various projects with the Lupus Foundation, not only here in the state of Ohio, but nationally. She worked on some teens educational programs. She was a patient navigator, a support group leader, a walk warrior. The list goes on, and she always rises. And what an incredible story. Hello, Brittney. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
Brittney has had an incredible, I'm speechless, journey in the last 2 years. Okay. Her journey with lupus has been incredible as a young girl, but it just became a complex journey with multiple health issues. And Brittney's here to share it with you today. So Brittney now lives, you're over the Kentucky border, correct?
I am. I'm right in northern Kentucky, just shy of Cincinnati.
Brittney, go ahead. This is your 5 minutes of fame. Please share your incredible last couple years journey, and then we're going to come back and circle back around Medicaid.
Okay. So I already had lupus. I was diagnosed when I was a teenager, and then right after my 30th birthday, I woke up with really bad pain, didn't know what it was, and ended up getting an emergency CT scan, was admitted to the hospital, and had biopsy and everything of a suspicious spot they saw right in between my pancreas and my small intestine. And we ended up finding out it was cancer. It was pancreatic neuroendocrine cancer. And for that type of cancer, they have to do a surgery called a Whipple, which they go in and they take out part of your stomach, part of your pancreas, part of your small intestine, and your whole gallbladder. And then they reconnect it all together, like Humpty Dumpty, put you back together again, and kind of connect everything to your small intestine. Well, because I had been on steroids for so long, my insides, my doctor said it was like trying to sew together wet tissue paper. Everything was mushy, and the connections, those new connections they made, didn't hold. And I became septic. I was in a medically induced coma. I was in the ICU. I was bedbound for so long that I developed drop foot, which is where your feet kind of bloop, and you just kind of fall forward and can't flex anymore. And I ended up having to have surgery to correct that in both feet as well. And I've been relearning how to walk because one, I lost strength, and two, the surgery in my feet, and now my feet are kind of stuck flexed. So like the opposite problem, but I can walk now. And I had, in between those two surgeries, I had another surgery to fix all the connections that went wrong with the first one. And during that surgery, they found that all of my organs had fused together and stuck to the inside of my stomach wall. And they had to kind of like carefully pull everything back apart and then line my insides with a medical mesh to make sure that it didn't all stick together again. And during that surgery, because it was so complicated, they ended up having to take more of my small intestine, part of my colon, and right now I have a temporary ileostomy, which is not fun, but it's necessary. And what that is they took a piece of my small intestine and it pokes out the top of my stomach now. my 9-year-old niece calls it my tummy butt. And I will hopefully be having one more big surgery where they go in and they fix that. And I still have a small fistula, which is a incorrect connection. It's like a tube going from somewhere in my intestine out to my outsides. It's very small. I hardly have any problems with it, but it's not healing on its own. So they're going to have to fix that as well. So I still have one more big surgery planned. We just don't have it on the books yet. We're waiting to make sure that I'm healthy and in a good position to have that surgery before we hop back in.
And you still have a smile on your face.
Try. If you're not smiling and laughing, you're crying.
Yeah, that's true.
I
That's true.
tell you, that was the medical jargon part of it. But I saw you. I came to visit you when you were in the hospital, when you were maybe in the first hospital. Tell
Yes.
us that journey, because you were in multiple places.
So initially, I was in the SICU, which is the surgical ICU, at the University of Cincinnati. They're amazing. They took such good care of me, and I was there for I think about 6 months. Initially, right after the surgery, I was on a ventilator. Like I said, I was in a medically induced coma for a few weeks, and then I ended up with a tracheotomy, which gave me this scar. Um, and both of those are just, a way to help you breathe when you can't breathe on your own, because I was so sick. And I also kept getting like pneumonia and fluid in my lungs, around my lungs. So I had a lot of complications um, on top of everything else that was going on. Um, and it was scary. Um, I didn't know what was going on a lot of the time. I was really medicated, thank God.
Mhm.
Um, but I remember your visit and I was so excited to see you. And all the little goodies that you brought down, and me and my mom, the prayer cards that you read, every day before she left, she would randomly pick out a new one every day, and we would stick the ones we had already read in the back of the box. And we would pick a new one every day when she visited me, and she would read one off of those for me.
Nice. And your room was decorated. She had a Christmas tree. I will say your mother, wow, what a pillar of strength. I don't know if she visited every day, but pretty much when I was communicating with her or when I saw her on Facebook, she was keeping us all updated. Every holiday, you had a different tree. The room was filled with cards. You had a tremendous support system. You so blessed, Brittany, to have
Mhm.
all that support and the dedication. We have to do a program on caregivers because I don't think they get enough credit for the sacrifices they make and the worry that we put on them. But then you left there. Where did you go after that?
So after I was well enough to leave the ICU, I went to, I guess, kind of like a partner hospital with UC. It's called the Drake Center, and it's amazing. It's meant for long-term care. Um, it do like have they have the ability to still treat you when you have more complicated needs. So when I was there, I was still getting um, tube feeds. I had a tube that was giving me nutrition, and I couldn't tolerate a lot of that because I was kind of getting sick and everything with it. Um, so I was also on what's called TPN, and it's basically like liquid nutrition that goes in through an IV. And I had to get that every single day. And so I still needed good nursing care while getting the rehab that I got there. I was getting physical and occupational therapy, I think like every day, if not every other day. Um, I was at the time practicing getting in and out of a wheelchair, building up my arm strength, building up my leg strength, because I had been bedbound, not moving hardly at all for 6 months at that point. And so they really helped build up my strength and begin my therapy journey, which I'm still on right now, of getting back to being able to do everyday things the best I can without assistance.
Wow. Wow. And then didn't you go somewhere else too?
Oh my goodness. So the other places I went to were not a good part of the story. But so I was at the Drake Center until I had my additional surgeries. So I had been in the ICU, then the Drake Center, and then I was back at UC in the ICU when I had my second abdominal surgery. And then I was at another UC office when I had my foot surgery. And then they sent me to a skilled nursing facility, a SNF. Um, and during all of this, which we can touch on more in a minute when we talk about Medicaid, I had originally been on Kentucky Medicaid because I'm a Kentucky resident, and then I'd been in the hospital so long, they actually ended up switching me to Ohio's Medicaid program. Um, and it worked out better that way because Kentucky's Medicaid did not cover SNF care. So I was on the Ohio Medicaid and I was at Ohio facilities, and I got so sick, so septic from a UTI of all things that went untreated that I kept telling them I thought I had, and they didn't test for it. They didn't do anything for it until I became septic. And I ended up back in the ICU, and my mom said it was almost scarier when I was in the ICU from septic shock from this UTI, because they thought, I mean, the chances were high that I was going to die. I was an organ failure. I was out of it. And then I had an allergic reaction of all times to have something else happen, an allergic reaction to the antibiotic that they put me on. And I was in La La Land for like 3 weeks having like delusions, and everybody thought it was just because I was sick. No, it was because I was having a reaction to a medication. So that part of my journey was really scary and really concerning, looking back on it now, knowing the kind of care I got there. And there's a lot of people there who are elderly, who are very sick, who are, that's where they're stuck. And they're obviously not getting the best level of care. I'm lucky I had family. My mom and my dad were the ones who got me out of that place. They didn't want to let me leave. They kept trying to act like I was fine. And my parents were the ones who called basically for an ambulance to get me out of there and take me to the hospital.
So how many different venues did you go through during this journey?
So I was at the UC campus, main campus. I was at their rehab facility, the Drake Center. I went back to main campus at one point, and I went to their Westchester office where I had my foot surgery because that's where the foot surgeon was. I was at my first SNF for a couple months. And my second SNF, which I don't have as many bad things to say about them. I wasn't there as long, but I got septic there again, which wasn't entirely their fault. I don't think the infection was cleared up all the way. And in between the two SNFs, I was back at UC's main campus. So in total, I was at 5 places, 6 if you want to get technical, because within the Drake building is another company called Encompass, which is a really great rehab facility meant for short stays. And I was there for the last 2 weeks I was in the hospital to help really like nail my ability to walk and get up and use the restroom by myself before I went home. So that was like my big last leap, but it was in the same building as Drake, but it was a separate company.
Mm-hmm. And how much time did you actually spend in the hospital in all
I
those places?
added it up. It was 556 days. It was
Can't
just,
imagine.
You're a miracle. We're looking at a miracle. We're looking at an angel walking amongst us. Wow, what a blessing that you are here sharing that story with us. And you look great. You look great. I mean, I don't know how you feel. I hope you feel as good as you look. I know you still good for you. Good for you. And I follow you online. And you're not happy right now. Actually, you've been very vocal with your mother. Okay.
And we're fighting a little bit right now.
And we all feel the pain, I can speak for both of us. We have these challenges among our own families.
Mm.
Okay.
Mhm.
But why don't you share with us, what is your biggest concern? What is your bone of contention? Let's say that.
So with everything going on, I'm obviously worried not only for myself, but for other people um, who need Medicaid, who may be, at risk of losing their health insurance. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what Medicaid is. It's not like, when you're on Social Security or other things where you're getting a check. I think a lot of people have some kind of weird notion in their mind that, it's people sitting around not working and then getting money. It's health insurance. It's like any other plan. Um, but it's for low income and, at risk individuals who need a health insurance plan. So they may go months and months without needing or using it at all, but it's there to help take care of them when they need it. And it's just so important. And I've been seeing all of this news about these cuts and the changes that are going to be made, and it's scary.
Yeah, so you did work at one time. You did pay taxes. You did work when you had your ups and downs. You still managed to work. Now, no one could work when they're 560 some days in a hospital. Okay.
No.
Tragedy, crises happen to normal people all the time. You
Yeah,
don't have to be poor to have these things happen. Uh, so you've been very vocal online. All right. And I can remember when I visited, you had all those little machines and all those little pumps. I don't know what they're called, but there had to be a dozen of them in your room at one time.
Mhm.
I was scared when I saw you. And I kept thinking, my goodness, the price tag on this, who's paying for this? Because even if you had money or had a savings account, there's no way an individual could have paid for anything like this. Do you know what those bills may have come to? Do you have a vision of what that would have looked like?
I do. Because of everything going on, I went back into my account through UC Health and just added everything up. Some of the bills were huge chunks. There was one bill by itself that showed up that was over a million. It was almost $2 million just by itself for my
Wow.
initial surgery and hospital stay. And I totaled everything up. And this is just through UC. This isn't including those two sniffs that I mentioned or any other services. Just through the UC care I received, it was $6 million
Oh my
that my
goodness.
Medicaid paid.
Wow. Wow. Oh, but here
Yeah,
you are. Here you are. 6 million reasons why you needed Medicaid. You are here today, and we're happy that you're sharing. And you're doing so well. And last time I
thank
saw you was last fall. You were in a wheelchair, and you came to visit. And at one of our educational programs, you were just a burst of sunshine. And just so happy that you're sharing. So we don't know a lot about Medicaid. We don't want to say that we're Medicaid experts. But I do have a feeling that the world's kind of wonky right now, and you're not the only one who's concerned. We have a lot of our constituents who are fearful. They're all dealing with uncertainty, and I just see you being so vocal and posting your pictures, and you're like on a little rampage, and you're scared, and I get it, okay. And I wish I had an answer for you. We don't have answers, but we have some thoughts that Adrian's going to share some points that we discovered. Maybe it'll be a band-aid for a minute. Adrian, why don't you share what you found out?
Sure. I think, when we were researching this and looking into how it impacts patients, in particular lupus patients, because that's obviously our focus. So obviously there's a million other diseases and there's a million other circumstances that can require somebody to be on Medicaid. But what we know, and I'm going to speak to Ohio, I don't know Kentucky, Brittney, you might be able to share a little bit more about that. But what we know is the Medicaid program in Ohio serves over 3 million patients. So, am I freezing? I feel like I was freezing a little bit
You're
there, but it's okay. So it serves over 3 million patients, and approximately 500,000 people on Medicaid are at risk for losing their Medicaid coverage under the new big beautiful bill. So we know that that is an issue. We know that there's over 60,000 Ohioans with lupus. We also know that 1 in 4 receive their insurance through Medicare or Medicaid. And I think it's really, really important to point out that 1 in 3 people with lupus are temporarily disabled by the disease. So there are periods of time, like yourself, Brittney, where you were working for years, then you had a health crisis, you needed to be on Medicaid, and then your future, you might be another, in another situation where you're able to go back to work and you're able-bodied and you're through your therapy and you're healthy and you can get back into the office or wherever it is that you work. This is the situation for so many people. It's not necessarily, I think people, like you were saying, have this vision of what it is, just somebody sitting at home collecting checks, that kind of thing. We know that people with lupus, 1 in 4, receive their benefits, and it's because through Medicaid, and it's because of this temporary disabled situation. Lupus is a disease of flares and remissions. There are periods of time where lupus patients are healthy, and there's periods of time where lupus patients are very ill, and they require the assistance, some of them at least, the public assistance programs such as Medicaid or Medicare to get through. So I think it's really important to talk about that. And so these Ohioans that might lose their Medicaid, they're imposing certain things on adults under 65 who are enrolled in Medicaid, and in order to continue receiving coverage, they must work, attend school, or workforce training, or perform community service for at least 80 hours a month. Well, how is a person going through what you went through supposed to meet any of those requirements? It's not going to happen. And so there's many people like you. They're hospitalized. They're disabled at home. They might be immobile for periods of time because their body is undergoing such active inflammation. And the disease, as you know, lupus, you attack your own body. That's essentially what's happening. So a person, is basically fighting their own body every single day to function. And there are periods of time where it's way worse. So those are people that ideally need to be on Medicaid if they don't have other health insurance avenues. So these things are extremely important. These topics are extremely important to investigate and to really learn about so that we understand and we replace that notion, that preconceived notion that these are people just taking handouts. A lot of these people are sick. And if they're not sick, maybe there's, their caregiver, the person that has to take care of the sick patient, maybe they need to be on that so that they can take the time to take care of the patient and not have to be gone at the office, especially regarding children. And we do have lupus patients with children, or children with lupus out there. So it's important to remember those things.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking how wonky everything. I don't know. I don't have a description as to what's going on, but I will tell you the misnomers. And I'm looking at how beautiful you look, Brittney, and how beautiful Adrian is. And I'm not bad myself. And I'm thinking no one would know that we're sick. No one would ever know from the outside. They can't see the havoc that's going on in the inside. I mean, whether it be an infusion, whether it be the number of drugs I take, or what my evenings are like, or the pain that we go to that we mask so well, that kind of hurts our fight in a lot of ways. And like if we had mud and blood bandages all over us, maybe people would look at us differently. But we look normal. We look normal, and so that in itself is a problem. So I guess I want you to calm down. Your voice is heard and it needs to be heard. And people need to understand that this is a bad deal. This is a real bad deal. And I don't know how they fix it. And the consequences are going to be devastating as a society. I believe that. I'm speaking about that personally, not as an organization, personally. And then we look at the other cuts that are being made. and they are, the cutting for research, or even our little chapter here that did so much for so many people with so little, they just cut us completely without a thought. So we're in a different time, and I'm scared. You're scared, but I'm going to say we're all in this together, and we're going to have to figure it out. And I know that you're in another state, but you got services from Ohio, but your state itself is going to be impacted probably worse than Ohio, correct?
Hospital closures
Yes.
too. Yeah.
So from what I've seen, I believe it's 35 rural hospitals are at risk of closing in Kentucky. And we have hundreds of thousands of children that are going to be cut off from their Medicaid. Um, and uh, I mean, even more adults. And what's, I don't want to say ironic, but the bill that just went through when I was looking at the requirements that Adrian just was listing off about the work requirements and everything, that was actually implemented in Kentucky about six or 7 years ago. Our previous governor, Matt Bevin, had almost the exact same word for word plan. And the current administration that is in the White House right now actually loved that plan and thought it was great, but it was taken down by I believe it was a federal judge. I assume a federal judge through the state of Kentucky, saying that they couldn't do this with Medicaid. So I think it's a little crazy that now it's been implemented, these work requirements and all these other things attached to getting your Medicaid through the federal government, when we tried that in Kentucky and they said, no, we're not doing that. And then, as voters, people said, both Republican and Democrat, no, we're not doing this, because so many people here in our state do require and rely on Medicaid as their health insurance. And it's, at the time I was on Medicaid and I was working, and I was scared because I was afraid, what if I get sick and I have to call out, for a couple days a week? And I was barely doing 80 hours a month at the time, maybe just a little bit over. So if I had to call off, I was so afraid. I was like, are they going to literally be tracking every last hour I work? And if I have to call off sick, is that going to count against me? Are they going to try to cut off my Medicaid next month? So I already have a little bit of experience with these kind of requirements to get Medicaid. And I think it's going to have a really devastating effect when it goes, into effect, these rules.
Well,
I agree.
I agree. And I wish I had a magic pill to tell you everything would be better, but I don't. Okay. But so what can we do? Um, you have a voice, okay? And your representatives, or your senators, or your state representatives, or your national legislators, if you don't speak up and if you don't keep poking at them, that they want to get votes. And if you didn't vote, you better start learning to vote. Okay, your voice counts. I think we're in this situation because most people lent on other people's shoulders to vote. And well, I'm afraid to say this one, but I will. I don't think it's the popular vote of the human race here in the United States. So you vote, your voice is heard, you email, you call your legislators. The more you talk to them about it, the more you educate them about it, the better off we're all going to be. But right now we're in a storm, okay? And we don't know if it's going to be mild or not. So, but we're going to try to weather it, and I pray that you're going to weather it too. But let's talk about something positive for a minute, because you weathered a tsunami health-wise, okay? How are you so cute and lipstick and You still have a great attitude. What would you tell someone who's going, how did you manage that health crisis mentally?
Family. My family, I mean, you said before my mom, but not just my mom, my dad especially, both of them, every single day in the hospital, coming in, chit-chatting with me, making me laugh. It was always their goal to make me laugh when they were there, um, to try to keep my spirits high. My nurses, I don't think nurses get enough love. I saw the same nurses day in and day out for months, and they became a second family. Because mine would be there for probably at most 3 or 4 hours a day between the two of them. Um, Unless it was a bad day, they might stay longer. And my nurses were there all the times in between, and they kept my spirits up. Um, love them so much. And my friends online, sending me well wishes, sometimes sending me little gift packages. I had a lot of people that I didn't even realize, cared about me as much as they did, who really stepped up while I was in the hospital to reach out and, be there for me. And I think that's really important. I don't know how anybody could get through something like that. Even a shorter hospital stay. I don't know how you can get through that by yourself. So it's really important to have community.
And you're home now. You're living independently now, correct?
I am. I'm home with my kitty cats. It's great. When I first came home, my parents were still coming over, both of them, once in the morning, once at night. My mom would come in the morning, my dad would come at night, to help me get up and about when I wasn't able to walk as well. Now they come a couple times a week. My mom takes me twice a week to therapy. Sometimes we do something fun on the weekend. My dad always comes over on trash day. He's the one who helps with the trash. And helps with the dishes and laundry, which I'm actually starting to be able to do by myself because my laundry's in my basement. And we've been practicing going up and down my steps with a small backpack, with small loads of laundry. So I'm getting
Wow.
there, but I still have my family come over a couple days a week to help me with everything.
Well, you have been a blessing to this organization, giving back in so many ways and sharing your experiences. We're so grateful. I will continue to pray for your healing and your future surgeries. I'm sure you're going to keep us abreast of it. Keep chatting on Facebook. You're a bright light to the rest of us, and let's all be hopeful that tomorrow brings a better day and that we'll have better answers and that we can get rid of this uncertainty. Brittney, thank you for your time. Adrian, thank you for your time. You ladies are real warriors, and we're in this together. Remember, there's no I in the word lupus, but there is us. Okay. But for today, thank you for coming to my lupus living room. All conversations are not meant to be derogatory about any one person or specific topic, but they are concerns. If you have questions, reach out to professionals about Medicaid. All right. Thank you all. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Bye, Brittney.
Take care.
Bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you guys.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. As cute as a button.